Well,
Yeah.
I think we're 2 o'clock. If you wanna,
Stick it over
Yeah.
if you wanna
it
call
is.
us
It's
to
on
order,
everything.
Mr. Reader.
I don't want to be
Like,
punctual.
I don't know. Yeah. Are you guys going anywhere? Taking the kids anywhere? Oh, okay. We're in California.
Okay, we're gonna pass the hat, and $5 is recommended.
And bring my purse.
You can
Plug in
Venmo
IOU, put an IOU.
Venmo.
You can Venmo Kenny.
We're gonna call this to order then.
All right,
Finance Committee, what is this, June what?
June, what is today? 22nd.
Oh, the second longest day in the year.
Second longest day of the year. So, well, thanks everybody for coming today, on a nice day out, so it's no fun being inside, but, we got a few items to go through today. I don't think the meeting will take real long, but we have a couple of items we want to touch on today. So we'll kind of just jump right in. The first item on the agenda, take a look at the May board meeting financials. At the end of, this is through the end of April, which is about 83% of the fiscal year done at that point. We were at 79% of our expenditures, so in good shape there, operating expenses at that point. The increases in expenditures this year of about $18.3 million from last fiscal year. The majority of that, as we've talked about from month to month, is in capital, especially a large part of that, the majority of that being ESSER funds with the HVAC projects. 11.5 million of that 18.3 is capital. About 3.5 million is an increase in salary and benefits. $631,000 is an increase in instructional services from last year. That's an area that we continue to monitor and watch quite a bit, because we are having to contract a lot of our SPED services, our IEP services like that, as we're unable to hire staff sometimes to fill those positions. Food supplies are up about $630,000, general supplies $430,000, and utilities $466,000. So those are the majority of the areas that make up the majority of those increased expenditures. Tax revenue is up this year about $3.3 million from FY23 at that point. State revenue is up about $1.2 million. So from a budgetary standpoint, at the end of April, we're tracking where we want to be and are in good shape there. So entertain any questions you might have about those financials for the month. Okay. The next thing is the healthcare trust. Again, the healthcare trust is in really good shape at this point. At the end of April, we had a balance of $2.937 million, and it was $2.812 at the end of March. Our funding ratios, our claims to funding ratio for the overall plan is running at 84.7, which is very, very good. And it's a good thing, and I'll talk a little bit about that on another level here in a minute. So we have a funding surplus of just a little over 1.9 million for the year, so it's running in a good position. The EPO continues to run at a funding ratio that is above where we'd like it to be, 109%, so a deficit of about 300,000. And then the PPO and the HSA are still subsidizing that. Tom Richmond brought up a great suggestion. As we talked about, we may have to look at not having the EPO at some point. Last month, he made the suggestion that we look into grandfathering people in, phasing it out. So I reached out to Lockton to talk to them about that. They are checking with compliance. There might be some issues with compliance. If we offer something for one employee, compliance may require us to offer it for all, but they are looking at the possibility of being able to say anyone hired after this date or anyone hired before this date. So still have them look into that. That would probably be a preferable solution to just eliminating the EPO altogether. But right now, as long as the HSA and the PPO plans are funding the way they are, tracking the way they are, we are still able to subsidize that. So any questions about the healthcare trust? All right, the next thing kind of relates to the healthcare trust a little bit. It was for our stop loss renewal, stop loss insurance, which is very, very important, has been very important with several of our employees this year as they have hit some pretty high thresholds. And so that stop loss insurance is a large protection for us from incurring huge claims. So it was time for us to look at renewal on that. Lockton approached 13 different carriers. Only 2 provided firm quotes, 11 declined to quote, and that sounds really, really bad. But the reason the 11 declined to quote is because our current per employee per month cost is 55% lower than the market rate right now. So they said, we can't compete, we're not even gonna bother to fill out a bid. So the fact that we are running in such a lean rate at this point made it so they said, we won't be able to give you a bid that's even competitive, so we're not gonna bid. So the 2 that did quote were Blue KC and then TMHCC, which is our current provider. TMHCC wanted a 10% increase, and Blue KC came in with a flat rate, no increase at all. So the recommendation to the board and what the board voted to accept at the work session was the Blue KC renewal. This is also going to speed up a little bit of our process when we get reimbursement for stop loss, because now Blue KC and our Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance will be able to communicate a little more effectively. We won't have to go to that third party to verify the costs and everything. So really as good of a result as we could have hoped for. I don't anticipate insurance costs to remain flat for us. We've had a pretty good run here, but that's going well. And again, that renewal was very good news. When they said they wanted to have a Zoom with Gabe and I was a little bit nervous when I got that kind of. It was like, hey, can we get a Zoom meeting with you guys about stop loss insurance? And I was anticipating bad news, so I was very, very pleased that came out that way. So, any questions about the stop loss renewal?
What was that amount?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but it is flat. It's the same as it was this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that then? Approximately.
Well, I can tell you.
Give me within 10 million.
Right. Well, I'm gonna tell you what our premium in April was $72,800.
Okay. That gives me more of
Yep.
a point of reference.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
we do that times 12, right?
Yeah. But we had several, and that's with the $200,000 deductible. They ran it multiple ways. They ran it with a 200, a 215, and a 230. They have what they call Monte Carlo simulation. I'm learning a whole lot of insurance phrases this year that I never knew existed. But the 200,000 deductible won 99.6% of the time as they ran simulations and everything. So that was why we recommended we stay at that, which is in line with current size, similar sized employees too. So there was a whole lot of math I could share with you that they sent me sheets and sheets of stuff that, end of the day, this was the one that made the most sense. And again, it was a flat, no increase. So, all right. Any other questions about that? Let's move on to the agenda, the board agenda for this month. One thing I want to touch on a little bit, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I do want to touch on it because we're presenting the budget this month to the board. Kind of there's some good news and some bad news. We are going to present a deficit spending budget this year, and that is really can be attributed to a lot of staffing that we've added over the last couple of years. Some of the bad news, our weighted ADA, which is used for state funding, we were not allowed to use our pre-pandemic number any longer in the Prop C and the Classroom Trust Fund monies, and so that is going to cost us about $1.2 million. The converse of that, the good, is that the state is allowing us to use pre-pandemic one more year for our foundation number, our formula number. So that if we had to go to not using that anymore, that would have been about another $5.4 million we would be looking at. And just to put it in perspective, our student enrollments decreased by 658 students since 2019. So that is what's creating that significant difference in what what our funding is. Additionally, our attendance rate is not as good either, so it's kind of, you combine those two things, that's not good on the revenue side for us.
How much is that costing us? I mean, how much, the attendance, how much is that costing us, like thousands or millions a year?
Millions,
Really?
yeah.
What's our attendance rate?
It's gonna be about 78%.
So
Yeah.
how much do we lose when students aren't, is there a number that they?
Well, the
have to get or
SAT,
should-
that if a student attends 100% of the time, all year long, 6375. That's just for the formula. And so,
And then they just decrease it as their percentages drop?
yeah,
No, the SAT stays the same amount, but if.
it's a
they-
percentage then of that SAT then.
Oh,
So if they attend 90% of the time, we get 90% of
okay,
6375.
get it. So yeah, that's a big 22%.
Yeah. And Katie's got a lot more detail that we'll have for the board meeting, some charts and stuff. Our weighted ADA has always been above our student enrollment because there's some multiplying factors for SPED, for free and reduced, things like that. That line has crossed, or actually our WAD, our weighted ADA is actually going to be below our student enrollment. And so that is the impact of poor attendance. And it's not a unique issue to St. Joe. It's something that I read an article yesterday that talked about superintendents across the country the challenge they have right now is getting students into school for a whole variety of reasons. Post-pandemic, that's something that everybody's struggling with. And so we obviously have put a lot of resources into trying to help with that, which is what is also adding to some of our costs. We'll talk about going along with kind of the bad or what was impacting us on the other side. The raise we gave everyone last year, a 2.65% raise. We felt like that was a good raise. That cost about $2.9 million. We felt good about 2.65, but area school districts are in the 4 to 12% range. The city just gave their employees a 5% raise. So while we felt like we were moving in the right direction, I'm not sure if we really made up ground. But that was a number we felt comfortable with as far as being able to do. New staffing, some stipends the board has approved, some other things, some making up frozen step, some things like that. All those things combined together are adding about $4 million next year.
What new stipends do you have?
Webster staff, that's really the main one. New staffing that's being requested with title funds is just a little bit over $1 million. So you can see we are adding quite a bit in staffing. The one thing that is probably going to make those numbers not as bad as we have to budget for right now. We likely won't be able to fill all those positions. I mean, it's just, that's the reality of it. But we've got a budget for them, we've got a plan for them, and that's where we're wanting to staff at. And to give you an example, talk a little bit about the resources we've put into trying to help with attendance, mental health needs, things like that here post-pandemic. Our non-certified staff has grown by our salaries and benefits have grown by 22% since fiscal year 21. So we are putting some resources in there. Those are the attendance interventionists, the social workers, all of those areas like that we're trying to best meet the needs of our students. But there is a cost associated with that too. And then purchase services have increased from $13 million in fiscal year 19 to about $21 million for next year. Some of that can be attributed to some lease purchases we've done with some computers and things like that. But also another big area that I mentioned earlier is our purchase services with some of our SPED services, some of our outside services like that. So again, an area that we're keeping an eye on, but at the same time, we're required to provide those services, and we want to be able to provide those services for students. So that's kind of some of the negative. The good, like I say, I mentioned, we're being allowed to use that pre-pandemic number one more year for the formula. Triumph and North Shops, TIF expired this year. It's going to generate about $900,000 an additional revenue for us this year. And our fund balance is still, even with what we're looking at this year, we still anticipate it to be somewhere between 23 and 24%, which if you go back to fiscal year 19, that's about where we were pre-pandemic. So we're back to that. A lot of our fund balance that we've been able to really add to that fund balance percentage the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of that has been driven because of the influx of federal funding through ESSER dollars and through a lot of that COVID money and everything. So that's kind of where it's at. Again, we'll have some additional details and stuff that we'll share at the board meeting. The one thing that probably the biggest message out of all this is that our current staffing is not sustainable long-term. It just isn't. Staffing is what is a rolling long-term expense. And so, that's something that, along with what the facilities committee is doing, how they're looking at things, some of those things may impact and have some impact on us on this side too. So that's kind of everything briefly with the budget. So any questions about that?
I have one question. Next year, you said this year we're using the pre-pandemic formula, which saves us $5.4 million, but what does that gap look like for next year?
Well, we don't know yet, because if we have a good year attendance and enrollment-wise next year, we'll be able to use that year. We get to use the best year of like 3 years, I think is the gap of 3. So
we're using 11,196 for our weighted average daily attendance, which is from 2020. And 2021 went to 10,389, which is an 806.7 weighted average daily attendance decrease, which is like $5.1 million times the state has target.
So if we go in next year and there's like, are you gonna have to do an increase for taxes? Like 900,000 sounds like a lot for North Shop, but it's really not that much.
yeah, no, it's significant, but it's not. It doesn't tip
How
us
about
in.
Triumph? Isn't that supposed to be going off too?
Triumph and North Shops both did.
And what was Triumph?
The total of both is about 900,000 for the school district, not total everything, but for school district.
Because I know we talked about when they did the tax, when they renewed the bond last year, we had talked about going up, 10 or 20 cents. Reader was like 50, which I think we could have probably passed it. People want our schools better, so I was just curious if that was part of a plan segue into we need to.
That's a discussion that may need to happen. That would be something the board would have to look at.
Sure.
Again, I'm kind of just sharing that information with them that, hey, what we've got staffing wise is not sustainable long term, so.
Is that, we got it a little bit top heavy, but not at the administration level, but at the worker level with using the free money for attendance, interventionists and people like that. How are we gonna support those people?
And that's what I said, those are the discussions and everything that are gonna have to happen. We're staffed for, right now, the number of buildings we have, and really, what I kind of keep saying to people is we're still staffed and facility-wise for 11 or 12,000 kids, but we don't have 11 or 12,000 kids. And so at some point, we're gonna have to, facility-wise and staffing-wise, get to where we are number-wise.
Where are we big, grade school, middle school, or high school? Where's the bubble at?
I mean, it's spread
It's
across
spread
12
out.
grades, yeah.
I didn't know if there was one.
Yeah.
In facilities, we come down to a middle school problem.
Right.
Being a little glut there right
Right.
now. That too shall pass.
Yeah.
The 22% increase in non-certified, how much is that financially? Like, what's the number on that, with those folks?
I don't have that number in front of me. Let me
I was
see.
just curious if it was like a couple million, or.
What was that question?
The 22%
non-certified
increase in
staff.
non-certified students, which is like social worker and attendance interventionist, I'm just curious, since we're up 22%,
Yeah,
that's what the budget was.
I just had the percent down, I didn't write that
So
down.
in FY '24, we have budgeted 23.7 million, and in FY '21, what we actually paid out was 19.2.
So maybe 4 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else about the budget, question-wise?
On that $6,300 you talked about, Robert, you know, what we get for every butt in the seat,
6375, yeah.
that's just the state portion, right?
That is what the state formula gives us, yes. And
So we still get that much, or at least that much again from the local, really.
There's,
We don't get a certain amount per attendance rate from the local, it's just based on the tax rate, so.
yeah,
I think it's $3.81, I just had it up, is what we get, for operating revenue.
it's not based as much on students as.
Right.
Okay,
The
or
state
student
funding.
population.
Right, the state
Right.
funding is based
It's
on
not.
that.
Okay, but again, if we've got 63 from the state, that's the formula we're all working around on this, what then, because you know, they always say, well,
What if-
cost
if-
11,000 to
If,
educate kids.
if you want to go lobby your state legislators, if they would change the SAT, the student adequacy target from 6375 to a larger number, that would significantly benefit schools.
Or simply went off of enrollment versus,
Of course, it would benefit because it would raise our taxes, but,
Well, no, it wouldn't, depends.
yeah.
You get that debate since they're sitting on a $5 billion surplus in Jeff City, but
Yeah. Those things are way out of my work zone or my pay grade.
But they haven't
At the
changed the
state level.
SAT for a long time.
And, you know, the same time, whenever it always comes up, well, other districts are having the same problem, whether it's paying their administrators, paying their teachers, or the last thing that came up, attendance. I don't care about other districts, all I care about is ours on the attendance, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So of the 6,300 we get from the state, is it 1,000 or is it 8,000 more we get than from our local, whatever that formula is, and it's not butts in the seats, just what our tax rate is it?
I mean, if it's $11,000 per, I'm trying to think of what the phrase is called. The rest of it will be made up by the local taxes.
So that number, 63 from the state, but
But the
all in.
difference of 11,000 minus the 63.
Okay, so 11,000 is about what it takes.
Yeah, I'd have to see what the current operating expenditures per pupil is. Desi calculates that, but I don't know that I've looked at that.
I just remember that number from a
Yeah.
while back. But, so I'm in the ballpark, they're saying it's about $11,000 in tax revenue, total all in from everybody to get each kid through our, system, right? So 11 is about right, so the 63 from the state. I guess we're figuring that's the easiest way to increase, is at the state, as opposed to go local and get more money.
I mean, your local effort is gonna have.
If it has a sunset, you might have a chance.
So,
Okay, all right, so I wanted to know that number, because I keep hearing 11, and we're talking 63, I think there's a gap. Well, that's on our backs, everybody who lives here. That's the portion we're making up right here.
all right, anything else on the budget?
Yes, I was just wondering, you said we're not sustainable for very long. So what is your professional estimate on how much we currently have?
I don't think we're sustainable for FY '25 at this staff level. That's my opinion. I don't think we can afford to deficit spend that number again next year, especially in that we won't get to use pre-pandemic attendance another year. We really didn't think we would get to use it this year. The state kind of late in the game had told us not to plan on it, and then kind of said, yeah, we're gonna extend that one more year, so. But they didn't allow it for everything. They allowed it for the formula, but not for Prop C and Classroom Trust Fund.
Now Gabe had a great, and I don't have, if he sent me I drove a different car, so there's my other book. But Gabe has a chart that he gave our budget, what's sustainable and when, and he gave it when we were renewing our bond and how much we would need to do 10% or 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, and how long it would take us out. And 25 is exactly what that chart said, but it's somewhere, either Gabe has it or Donna has it, but you might look at that chart, it'll help you. Because it's handy, I just don't have it with me.
All right, anything else on budget? 3 action items that I'll share with you. One, just kind of briefly, I'll be honest with you, this occurred while I was gone on vacation, and so I don't have a ton of details. There's a change order on the Hilliard expansion for $70,000. When they got in to do some excavating, they found some additional underground storm lines that were discovered unknown during the original design. So they're in the path of where the building footings are going to be, so they've got to do some work there to move some things around and go deeper and tie into another storm drain line. Terry Clark's going to be at the board meeting Monday night to discuss it in more detail and everything, so if you want more detail about that, he'll be there Monday night, but they're asking for a $70,000 change order because of that unexpected piece there. There are two items that Jake's got. I'll let Jake talk about them. The first one is some security camera video storage expansion.
Yeah, so our current storage unit that we have for our security cameras, I'll give you a little background on it first before we talk about the direction we're going. It was purchased in 2018, which was before we started the upgrade on all of the security cameras in the district. And I'll be honest, when they bought it, they bought the Cadillac can do anything and everything you need to do. So now, 5 years later, we're in a position where that storage is used up and we still have 8 buildings to put onto our security camera system, which should be done by the end of the summer. What this system does, so day 1 of camera, I guess day 0 to day 30, are stored on the actual servers that the cameras are on out in the buildings. Day 31 to 60 comes back to TMC and is stored on this device that we have there. When I found out we were out of space, I looked at a couple different options. Option 1 would be to basically take the unit that we have, purchase more storage for it to get at the capacity that we need to run smoothly, which is really about doubling it. Right now it's at 700 terabytes. We need to be about 1,400, 1,500 terabytes to operate smoothly so data transfers and moves around easily. Doing that was gonna cost about $145,000, $150,000. To me, that's kind of throwing money at an old system that has 58 different capabilities and we're using 2 of them, right? So that's a lot of money put in a place where we're adding on to old equipment and we're buying features that we're never gonna use. So the route I decided to go out with this was to, basically we will retire the old unit and replace it with a new storage system that does what we need to do, but it doesn't do all the other fancy stuff that we don't use anyway. And it came in at $121,000, and it will actually give us close to 1,700 terabytes of storage. So it'll be more than enough as we add cameras in certain places where we found blind spots. That's our next phase, is adding cameras one off here, there. That'll give us more than enough storage and will be a lot cheaper and will be all new equipment rather than adding to something that's 5 years old. So, any questions on that one?
Sounds good.
Why are we, they sold us the Cadillac system, like you said.
Yeah.
Before you were involved, but,
Yeah.
so then we had 54 things we could do with it,
Mm.
and like, clean your car and
Yeah, well,
sort your
because-
closet and stuff like that, we're never gonna use.
Yeah, because like some companies, when they do security cameras, right, they need to do facial recognition, they need to do, like, if somebody's wearing a red shirt, I can type in, find guy at this time with red shirt, and it'll track him through every
Oh, I
person
see.
he goes, but that's just stuff that we don't need to do, at this time.
But we did need,
And hopefully
but we need
not
the storage
soon,
upgrade.
but we do need the storage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the biggest piece, is we've added a lot more cameras and cameras that have higher quality and resolution, so they
Yeah.
take more data. And so, this is what we need to be able to support all that.
yeah.
Jacob, do you have a policy on how long you keep data? Like per school, like, okay, after 60 days we purge it, or?
Well, so for camera footage, it's 60 days, and then it's gone, yep. Yeah, which, I mean, the industry standard is between 45 and 60. Some people do up to 90, but that just seems excessive, like if you're not,
You're gonna
you
hear
can't,
about
you
it.
can pull it, right? So, like when we had the incident at Central on graduation night, we pulled all that footage and have it, so after the 60 days expires and it disappears, we still got a copy
Right,
of that
right.
stuff, so.
Well, and I'll just note where we've come, you know, since I was an AP in the building with our coverage of cameras and our
Yeah.
ability
It's
to
wonderful.
look at things and you know, if I always tell people if I had a nickel for all the time I spent in front of a DVR, you know,
Yeah.
trying to fast forward and find what I was trying to see that occurred in a hallway or in a parking lot or something like. And if it was in a parking lot, our cameras didn't have the resolution for me to see it very well anyway. And so, from a safety and security standpoint, where we're at with our coverage of cameras and everything, we're leaps and bounds, and so we're in a good spot, I think.
Have there ever been instances which we wish we could be storing something for a year because something comes up that's very tragic, that we can't do anything?
No, because if any big event happens, then we pull that
You pull it,
footage
yeah,
and
okay.
store it,
Yeah.
right? So that way, if we need it later, we've got a copy of it.
Unless it's at the event you don't hear about until 9 months or 4 months later, right? But
Yeah.
very seldom. You
If
don't
something,
come
yeah,
across it.
if something like that happens, we've got other issues, so,
Well, maybe, yeah.
yeah.
All right, any other questions for Jacob on that? All right, the other thing, that Jake has on there is, replacing
What are you
some computers.
smiling at? So,
He's on the hot
second,
seat this month, so.
yeah, second item for this month is for our next cycle of student computer replacement. Last year we did 912, this year we're looking at 6-8. And that'll be sixth graders in elementary or middle, whatever, just the entire grade. We had a few extra, I think we had about 400 to 500 extra of the ones that we got last fall, which we ordered a few extra because we would need them for replacement. Well, now we're gonna use some of them, so I'm not ordering quite as many this year for this group. We're looking at 2,000 is what we would be getting. And the cost of that is 1.3 million. And like always with computers, we do the lease because that allows you to budget a little bit easier for the next couple of years on it. And so we're looking at about 450,000 a year on that one for that lease for 3 years. And then, but we do purchase a 4-year warranty, so they would be in a 4-year cycle, which is the same that we did last year. So, because replacing the computer at 3 years, I mean, you can do it, but it's not really necessary. In 5 years, you're kind of pushing your limits, so 4 years is kind of the sweet spot on the replacement cycle, I think. Then, just, you know, to be aware, like next year will be 3 through 5 will be what we'll bring. And then we'll have a gap year, because we won't have to replace the high school ones again. The gap year will be if we decide to do iPads again for K2 or what we decide to do then, because there's several different things I want to look at there, so.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that we're finally getting on a cycle of, that's what we ran into a lot is, we would hold on, then suddenly we had this large expense all at once.
Right. Well, and,
And then what happened many times was, well, we had to go to a model that really
yep,
was insufficient or inferior because that's what we could afford. So by spacing this out, having a succession model like this, I think it's a good way to go.
How old are the 6 through 8 computers now?
this is the end of year 4 on them. So the warranty just expired on them at the end of May.
So with the 1.3 million, you plan to order those, that's gonna be the 23-24 budget for computers, is
Yeah.
just those?
Well, no, that's 23, 24, this next budget.
Will be
year.
the 450, the first year of that lease. Yeah,
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 yeah. And then 24, 25 is 3 through 5, a gap year 25, 26, then we start back over with high school in 27.
yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
Praise God for the gap year.
Well, you know, that's, yeah, and we'll have to do something there. We'll have, like I said, K2, the current model that we use where we give every single one of them an iPad, I don't think is really necessary at that age. So I'm gonna start meeting with those grade level teachers and kind of see what direction we want to go, and so that gap year will kind of let us do something there. We'll probably have to purchase something, but it won't be nearly as significant as what we have to do the rest of the time.
The ones that are expiring, so the warranties are out, what happens to the computers?
We recycle them. So we sell them to a certified recycler that makes sure that the hard drives are wiped and everything, and then they resell.
They resell them,
Yeah.
because they still kind of own them then? Or we sell them to them?
We
don't
sell
give
them,
to
yeah, we
Okay.
sell them to them.
Okay.
So they pay us for them, and then they clean them, fix anything that's broken, all that stuff, and then they resell them.
How
A
much-
big one used to be, that they used to use would be like Tiger Direct and online sellers like that, but I think a lot of them have disappeared, but.
Who do you sell them to now?
The company we sell to is called Synetic. They're in North Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just a local recycler down there. And we chose them because they're close, they can come up whenever we want, and they're also Apple Repair certified. So,
Nice.
like all of our iPads and stuff, they can do all the warranty repairs if we need them to, so.
Do you know how much you usually get for them? I'm just curious.
It depends on condition and age, and this last set that, we just got them the big lot, so here in the next month or two, I'll probably know what the average cost was, because they're going through them right now, doing
From 9 through
everything.
12, you mean?
Yeah.
What about the teachers?
Teacher ones, I think we averaged, it was about 400 a piece, is what we,
Oh, that's not bad.
yeah.
Is what you get back for selling them? Is what you get back for selling those back?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the student ones won't be as
Yeah.
much, I mean, they'll be $100.
Yeah.
That's what I
$150.
thought you said before, $100 or so,
Yeah,
that's what you
yeah.
mentioned it.
Yeah, but the teacher ones, when we did that, those were, newer, and because they were just a year old, there wasn't as much damage. And all the damage that we did have all ran through the Apple warranty that we had with them, because they could do that, so that helped us get more for those.
Is there some system in some situations, like on this, like this newer ones you turn back in and stuff like, and the teacher level, I'd say, that once they go back, get swiped, as you say, things like that, that we would have a chance, employees or
Well,
people
once
within the
we,
district could have a chance, maybe even a discounted chance to buy them back?
yeah, so when they did the Macs, they got those and they gave us a price, and we sent it out to staff on, hey, these are available from this company, you just purchase them through
Oh,
them.
good,
Yeah.
good, excellent.
We don't do that for us because if
don't
we
store
didn't
advantage,
sell
yeah.
them to them as a certified recycler, we would pull hard drives and drill them. Because that's the only way, if you don't have the equipment to do the proper cleaning, that you can guarantee there's no data on them. So then that makes them even less valuable, so.
On the same thing as the teacher level or
Yeah.
whatever, come back through again, or is there, you think there's gonna be that type of situation again where?
Well, I mean, yeah,
you
we'll
buy-
have
you
to,
buy 'em
we'll have to,
before you turn them back in?
yeah, when we replace the teacher ones again, we'll do the same thing. Where we'll send them to them and they'll clean them and then they'll give us, hey, here's a price, if you want to send it out to your staff, they can contact us and purchase them. We won't sell it.
Okay.
That'd be
Yeah,
nice
we-
for
I
some
mean,
homes
even selling
that
back to
could
the
use it,
teacher one.
any kind of laptop or computer.
Yeah, yeah.
To get some.
Yeah, but like, no, we can't sell, if it has a hard drive in it, we can't sell it to the general public. The only way we can sell it, like computers, we could surplus all of these and sell them as a lot in the auction, but we'd have to pull hard drives. Like you
Make sure
can't,
that's student data.
yeah, we can't sell hard drives.
Because you can't clean them.
Correct, because we don't have the equipment to properly clean them.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks, Dave.
anything else for Jake on that? Those are the only items on the agenda, on the board agenda this month, related to that.
Thank you for reviewing that, that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There is no July Finance Committee meeting because the board meeting in July is strictly gonna be limited. Normally, we don't have a July board meeting, but they're having one strictly for personnel. And so Gabe has said, don't even try to bring anything other than personnel to the July board meeting. And so we are not. And so, and then the August meeting was originally on the 17th of August. We're gonna move that back to the 24th. The way the calendar falls with the board meeting, that's gonna allow us to have time to have the agenda and everything beforehand. So if there are any further questions,
You're talking about the board meeting next week, right, Robert?
I'm talking about the board meeting in August.
Okay, well, in July, we don't have you.
July, we're
Except
not
for the
having a
personnel.
finance committee meeting.
Except for personnel.
Except, yes, a July board meeting just for personnel, so we're not having a finance committee meeting.
And the next regular one's this date here, you moved it and.
24th,
The
my
one's next week.
birthday, so, yeah, you can celebrate my birthday with me.
Well, I will.
All right.
Robert, can you pass
Should
around
get
the
a cake, don't
sign-in
you guys
sheet,
think?
so.
Yes, is there anybody, if you haven't signed this sheet,
Okay.
please sign in on that before you go.
We can put some special stuff in the cake.
Speak for yourself.
Don't let Kenny bake it.
I'm a little nervous what that might be.
Sorry.
All right, are we adjourned, Mr. Reader?
What do you guys think?
So moved, let's move.
All right.
I kinda like it here, though. I haven't turned on my air conditioner again yet this year, so I appreciate hanging out here.
Yeah.